Dear Ujames, 1978. In your video you've just made called What's Wrong With Me and What's Wrong With You, blah blah blah, you wax lyrical about how self-examination and self-reflection and looking at oneself and criticising and admitting when you're wrong is an important thing and a factor, and I agree with you. So I've decided, James, to examine your position for you, seeing as you don't seem to want to be able to do it yourself well enough. You make videos, James. You made several videos a while ago criticising Thunderfoot, saying that Thunderfoot, and the same criticisms I made of him, that Thunderfoot just made videos where he didn't address the real arguments, and he was making out like there were no real arguments. Interestingly, James, this is the exact same thing you're currently doing with the determinism debate. You are ignoring the arguments put forward by secular numanist, invincible numanist, or I will call him Newman for this video. You're ignoring those arguments, and you're focusing on other things he has said that you consider to be hurtful. That's fair enough, but don't criticise Thunderfoot when he does the same thing. Now, the video you're referring to is a video that invincible numanist Newman made about a year ago called Ujames 1978, The Man's an Arse, in which he just basically assaulted you. And you're complaining about that and saying that this is an example of him not getting involved in the actual argument. James, the reason Newman made that video is because you asked him to. You were doing a collab video and you asked everybody, as many people as possible, to make videos saying what they thought of you, including people who didn't like you, specifically Newman. So you asked him to make that video, and I don't care what he said in that video, James, that you thought was hurtful or insulting, because that video was over a year old. It's got nothing to do with the determinism argument, and it certainly does not give you the right, or it doesn't really make any sense to put Newman in the same category as someone like Amit 1980, or any of these other lunatics trolls who you're talking about. Because he made that video. Because you asked him to make it, James. Also, James, you make videos constantly. You talk about how everybody just calls you condescending and smug. Yeah? So what? That's a valid point, don't you think? Do you think it's easy for a smug, condescending person to convince anybody of anything? Right? More to the point, James, if people focus on that, maybe you should consider re-evaluating your position on whether you want to act like that, if your goal is to change people's minds. Because you seem to be focusing on the fact that Newman once said your girlfriend doesn't exist in order to ignore all of the arguments about determinism. That seems to be the case here. Secondly, next point, James, you make videos in which you have constantly made generalisations about groups of people, calling them, along with many other things, but usually self-righteous, willfully ignorant, hypocritical pig fucker. Do you think, James, that when you make an entire group, like a video about anti-statists, or a video about anyone in specific anarchists, libertarians, whatever, MRAs, and you refer to an entire group of people as willfully ignorant, self-righteous, hypocritical pig fuckers, do you not think that maybe you should be less critical of people like Thunderfoot and Condell, Martin J. Willett, etc., who make generalising comments about Muslims? Do you not think, James, there's something for you to re-evaluate? And more importantly, James, just don't tell somebody you don't like to make a video telling you what they think of you, and then using that video a year later to dismiss arguments they have made against you in a discussion about a subject that you clearly know nothing about. You know nothing about determinism, James. You know nothing about the subject, so why do you keep making videos on it, and why do you send these videos to people like me and to people like Newman, and then when it comes round to having the discussion, you put your tail between your legs and play the victim because there's some people who say nasty things about you? This is the internet, sunshine. It doesn't get any easier from here on in, right? You want to talk shit about people like Thunderfoot? Be my guest, I'm on board with you. But you're doing the same things he's doing, James, and it doesn't look good, mate. Makes you look bad. It makes you look like a willfully ignorant, self-righteous, hypocritical Pig fucker. Richard the Dick Coughlin. Good night, may God be less.